at the latest round of tariff moves with NBC's Washington correspondent Alice Barr. And Alice, as we mentioned earlier, the president is meeting today with Japanese leaders. What does he hope comes from this leg of his trip?
Good morning, Chesley. Yeah, so he already met this morning with Japan's emperor at the Imperial Palace. We didn't get to see a lot of that. There are a lot of rules about how you can engage at the Imperial Palace, as you can imagine. Later tonight, Japan time tomorrow, or rather the reverse, later tonight, our time tomorrow, Japanese time, the president is meeting with the first ever female prime minister of Japan. And then he's going to have a troop visit and later a reception with business leaders. And the overarching theme here is trade. So it's fitting that he's ending the day with business leaders there in Japan. But this is billed as an extended bilateral meeting with the Prime Minister of Japan. And there's going to be some sticky stuff to work out because, in fact, Japan and the U.S. inked one of the earliest trade deals, and it was one that was fairly hard fought. Japan got a lower than threatened tariff of 15%, and in return pledged to put up $550 billion to fund American projects. So it's not entirely clear yet what those projects are going to be, and that is something the president and the prime minister are going to be speaking about. And it's particularly challenging because that amount is equal to more than a tenth of Japan's economy, according to reports. And it's going to be difficult for Japan to actually put up that amount of money, though they have agreed under at least a previous administration. And now the current prime minister is left to sort out the details with President Trump. Okay.
Yeah, President Trump also reaching out on this trip to another leader in the region, North Korea's Kim Jong-un. What is he saying about that? Is he saying anything about it at all?
Yeah, so he hasn't formally reached out, as far as we know, but he has said to reporters that he would be open to meeting with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un, and that in itself is notable. He also said that he would potentially extend his trip to accommodate that because this trip is all culminating in this visit on Thursday to South Korea, where he's going to be meeting with China's president and discussing that incredibly critical trade deal with China that apparently there's a breakthrough in, that it looks like, there's a framework and that they're going to get to some kind of resolution there. But the president suggested that while he's in South Korea, maybe he could extend that time to visit with Kim Jong-un, the neighbor to the north in North Korea. There has been some skepticism expressed by South Korea about whether that would actually be possible, but notable that he's entertaining the idea.
Okay, let's talk more about this TV ad that ran during the World Series from Canada, saying that the president saying that he won't meet with Canadians' prime minister. How much real damage is that U.S.-Canada relationship?
Yeah, so this is an interesting one to watch. And, essentially President Trump was irked by the fact that the government of Ontario played this ad that uses words from President Reagan. It is from a 1987 radio address on free and fair trade that's well known. And President Reagan is making disparaging comments about tariffs and how they can lead to trade wars. They can lead to negative impacts for Americans, for jobs, for businesses. But there were edits made to the way that the parts of the speech are stitched together. Not that necessarily changed the content, but that certainly, it was edited. And President Trump took great umbrage to that being done, and to certainly the suggestion that there was space between himself and between President Reagan, who's a towering figure. So he went so far as to say he's adding an additional 10% tariff on all Canadian products and that he is cutting off negotiations over trade. The Canadian Prime Minister and President Trump were in Malaysia at the same time yesterday, but President Trump did not agree to meet with him. Mark Carney of Canada says he's open to negotiate at any time.
All right, Alice, thanks so much for everything. Appreciate you.